Warning: the following content may contain elements that are not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
But anyway, we have that figured out. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
Test 1, 2. Test. All right, cool. Can you hear me?
Good to go. Yeah.
All right,
I
cool.
can hear you. All right. Welcome back to Win the Night podcast. I am your host, Josh, and I have a special guest for you guys tonight. He is a very close friend and also now a Marine Corps veteran. Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hello there. Am I looking that way or that way?
That's your camera right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Name is Omar Cedasero. It's probably hard to pronounce. A lot of my guys in the Marine Corps would say 00. Seda salad.
Cedasero.
Cedasero is another one. I don't know. It don't bother me.
Yeah. So. Well, I guess to the untrained mouth, that's hard to say.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
Well, I appreciate you coming out. It was a pretty long drive, so I'm sorry.
No. Don't worry about it. This is what we were just talking about. 2 years in the making, a little more. So yeah. I've supported as much as I can.
No, I definitely appreciate all the support that you've given me throughout it too. Is you've listened to me banter about this idea for 2 years now. I'm surprised your ears aren't bleeding from it. Huh?
No, I mean, I'm all ears. Yeah, I'm all ears. I'm not gonna. What do you say? Downplay it.
Right.
I'm not gonna be like, no, you shouldn't do that. Don't be an entrepreneur or anything like that. Just go to college, that kind of thing. No.
Yeah.
That's the old Latin household. You went to college?
What's funny too is we used to banter back and forth. I used to always think you were Mexican for the longest time.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, you told me one day you were like, no, I'm Ecuadorian. It's like, what the hell is that?
What is that? Hey, you better get smacked.
No, I mean, like, what's funny is I didn't see. That's how uncultured I am, right? Because like I just assume when I look around is like, oh, that guy's Mexican, right? But can you
Sure.
Can you tell me a little bit about like your family background? Like, is it have you always been in Illinois? Like,
So okay, here, never left the country.
okay,
Never had. Parents migrated over here, so they never really had the opportunity to send me out there ever. I tried to go 2020, then the coronavirus happened.
yeah.
So
you've never visited at all?
never at all. So I don't know what's the culture like. I'm probably the least person to even ask about how Ecuador is like. I can just tell you that our national dish probably, at least on, I think the east side of that country, was probably like cuy.
Yeah.
In English is guinea pigs. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
if you two
Disclaimer.
decides to
This is your fault, man.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have said it. No. You're good.
So there's that. I don't know much about it. I hope to go there one day. Parents grew up there.
Yeah.
We're both raised over there. They met each other over there, got married over there. Then they moved over here, obviously, for how they say the American dream.
So that's interesting. Then you're first generation American. Then
At least what? Yeah.
Ecuadorian-American.
Yeah.
I should say.
Yes.
Is what has it been like growing up? You being the first generation, because the difference between you and I is I'm second generation Mexican American.
Oh.
So like my mom was born in California, right?
Okay.
So she's American, Mexican American, and she's first generation, where my grandparents were the ones that moved here from Mexico. So for you, how has it been growing up, with being first generation Ecuadorian American? Like, what are the challenges you've had to face with that?
Well, first thing is they don't speak English very well.
Okay.
My parents didn't speak English very
Sure.
well, so my mom tried to teach me a little bit of English as much as she can when I was a baby.
Uh-huh.
So she had little books when I was the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the whole you dig, right?
Yeah.
that didn't help as much. As obviously, as soon as I went to school, then that's when I started picking up my English. I still have a little bit of a slur in my words. I think that's how I feel. I'm kind of conscious.
I think it's
about
just
it.
an accent.
So,
Like
maybe that too.
Yeah.
I really don't know, but I mean, it's really it. It's the languages, the language barriers. Obviously, they came over here with nothing.
Yeah.
So for them, we always talk about generational wealth, right? That's a thing that everybody kind of strives for. At least I know I do. And then maybe one day they don't have that. So now me, I guess you saying it being first generation, I hope I can produce something out of it.
Well, I mean, you kind of already started, like that was the path that you had carved. But before I get too much into, what you so far have done, like you said that like your parents, you had to translate a lot for them. Cause I remember my mom telling me that that's what she had to do was, translate for her parents, and cause they didn't speak English either. So, how old were your parents when they came to the U.S.?
They got married in 1994. I think they got over here by 1995. So my dad was probably in his early 30s, my mom in her late 20s.
Okay.
So they met pretty late, I guess, if that's the standard land marriage, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they had me when he was 35, and when my mom was like, I think 27 or 31. I don't remember. I forget the age gap.
Yeah.
So right now I'm 25.
Yeah.
So,
wow. Okay.
And my dad's 60. So it's a pretty big age gap right there.
I'm terrible at math because I didn't think that would add up to 60.
I think he was 35. Yeah.
Oh wait, if he was 35 years. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do math for Marines. So sorry.
Well, I did.
Yeah. Thank you.
I
appreciate
miraculously made it.
Yeah. Right. So okay. So then you spent that time with your helping out your parents and all that. Was learning like because you had to learn English. Did you struggle to learn English? Because that's something that I struggled to do because I spoke only Spanish when I grew up. I didn't speak any English whatsoever till I was like 5 or 6 years old.
So when I was growing up, before I even went to school, it was a lot of Spanish. Arroz con pollo.
Yeah.
Como todo eso, si no te voy a dar.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But as soon as I started going to school, English seemed a little easier to pick up. Came to the point where I didn't want to speak any more Spanish. My mom always liked to remind me that I like to tell her, no me gusta en español. No, I don't want to speak Spanish. Screw that kind of thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it was difficult. I was a toddler. I don't remember what they say are remembering. Is that what age 5 is when we start picking up things?
That's like some of the earliest memories I have was like 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's around the time I could remember learning more English and Spanish. She tried my best. God bless. I love her. So she tried her best. She had books stacked on one side of the wall for me to read. That's how I did.
Did she do Inglés sin barreras? Do you remember those commercials?
Yeah, dude, the big
books.
They had like 3 volumes, and like each volume was like 6 each. And,
yeah,
I did watch it.
It's rough. It's rough. Well, you said they were like in their 30s.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to learn anything like an entire new language in your 30s. Like that's why my grandparents never learned English, because it's just once you get to a certain age, I imagine like trying to remember what things mean is a lot harder than when you're like when I was a kid. Like for example, when you're a kid, it's just a sponge. You absorb everything.
All right.
Like that was the case for me. Is people like are surprised when I tell them like I didn't speak any English for like when I was a kid. Like when I moved to the U.S. because I lived in Mexico for 4 years before. I was born in California, and then I moved for 4 years.
Oh wow!
And then I only spoke Spanish throughout that time. And then I came back to the U.S. when my parents split up, and I didn't speak. Like, I started. I was in kindergarten, and then I had to go back to Mexico because my parents tried to work it out, and then I came back when it didn't work in 2nd grade. So I was in preschool in Mexico. I was kindergarten in the U.S. And I went back to Mexico for 1st grade and came back to the U.S. for 2nd grade. Yeah. So I had to take bilingual classes in 2nd grade or in 3rd grade because like I didn't speak English well enough. So when people listen to me talk now, they're like, I can't detect an accent on you. I'm like, it's just because like I was a kid, When you're a kid, you don't you can pick it up pretty quick, but when you're older, like you said, your parents, you're in your 30s, like you're barely going to be able to say anything coherent in a full sentence, let alone.
So I mean, they tried.
No,
at least my mom did. My dad, always working, try to provide for the family.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds like I was going away from the microphone.
Oh yeah.
So, but I mean, that's what it felt like growing up. I had my little sister and my little brother. I had to help them out a lot when they were younger, because now they both were working a lot. So all that kind of like the training wheels that were taken off of me, now it's my turn to teach them. Was that fair? I mean, I don't know if it's because I remember we're talking about my life now, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we can.
Yeah, but that's what it's about.
So what was it? I'm not gonna get into detail, but my mom and dad had marriage problems.
Yeah.
It came to the point where I was kind of afraid of my dad.
Yeah.
He's always drunk, and then my mom was doing something else. So I was really the head of household at that time, and that was probably between age 7 to like maybe 11. So like all that time was pretty rough.
So you were kind of like a parent,
almost like it. Was I ever ready for it? Probably not.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think any kid. I can relate to that. When we moved to the U.S., it was only with me and my older brother. My other siblings, they stayed with my dad. So it was me and my brother, who's only a year and 9 months older than me, like not even full 2 years. So when we moved here, I was like 5 years old, and in that time, like he had to microwave things. We had to figure. My mom was working 2 jobs, so it was just for a while. It was just her, and so my brother had to figure out how to put. He almost burned down the house once because he had to put chicken in the microwave, and he didn't know how long you're supposed to put it on there, right? So he put it for 5 minutes, for a full 5 minutes, and it was on a styrofoam plate, so it burned straight through it, and like the black smoke started coming out of it. I remember we were terrified, like waiting, because my mom was gonna be home like in a few hours. So now we're like, we almost burned the house down, and now there's black smoke everywhere. We have to open all the windows and get the smell out of it. We used Febreze, like to try to get out of here. Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's like we were like trying to take care of. He was trying to take care of me, and like be a parent basically. So like I was the little sibling in that situation, whereas you were kind of doing like what my brother did. And I could tell you that like that stuff puts a lot of strain on you, a lot of stress on you as a growing kid, because like you got your own stuff you got to worry about,
deal with at
and
school.
like you have to focus on learning whatever they're teaching you.
We're still developing. We're definitely growing, trying to capture everything we can.
Yeah.
The funny story you just said, almost exactly the same thing happened to me.
What's that?
The rotisserie chicken. We need to heat it up. I'm like, man, I don't know, like, and it was in this aluminum foil kind of bag. Yeah. So I didn't know any better. I just stuffed it in a microwave, put it for like a minute and 30 seconds, and all I remember seeing is the fireworks in the microwave. Boom, boom.
Yeah. It was a whole science experiment.
My sibling was like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh shit, check it out."
Don't worry. Go away.
It was funny. Like, I was embarrassed, but it was funny that something like that happened. I mean, those were the good memories, but.
Yeah, I mean, those are both like I would call those like bittersweet, because like they're funny and when you look back at them, but as a kid, like bro, like I thought the house was gonna get burnt down, like like and we didn't have an adult to like supervise any of that, so like that's just how it was, right? Like that's this, and it doesn't mean like I mean, my mom tried her best, right? She was obviously trying to provide for us, working 2 jobs, so she would try to leave food for us to be able to like prepare, but like. We're kids at the same time, right? So it was, I can relate to, that experience. So then like,
and I'm pretty sure we're not the only ones out there, obviously.
Oh,
like,
no.
Whether Latin or.
I feel like that's it's almost like a cultural thing, right? Like where the siblings kind of.
Take care of the younger siblings.
Because they have so many kids, right? Like, unfortunately, Latino families
that was the norm back then.
Yeah, they had to have a ton of children. Like my grandparents had, I'm probably gonna get this wrong, like 7 or 8 kids, and one of them passed away. Like, otherwise, they have like an abnormal amount of kids by now standards, right?
Same with my grandma on my dad's side.
Yeah,
I think I'm probably gonna get this wrong too. I think my dad always told me they used to have like 9 to 12 siblings.
Yeah,
I mean, unfortunately, they passed when they were younger, either when they were a baby or just growing up. that kind of thing. So now they're 5 total. So I only know obviously the 4 aunts and my uncles and then my father.
So what's interesting about that, the reason I'm finding out that the reason why they had so many kids then is because like the diseases, like you didn't know how many of those kids were going to survive into adulthood. So like there was like polio, there was like all these diseases that would wipe them out at a young age, right? So everyone, to maximize the likelihood that you'd have children that reach adulthood, you have as many as you can have, right? And they'd spend their entire like some of them had super young. Like my grandma was like 14 years old when she got married. I don't know when she first had her first kid, but it was probably not long after that. So like, you know, they were having kids super young. That's why they were able to have that many kids throughout their life, is because they started super young, which by now standards is not okay, because you understand that the mind is still, like they say that the human brain isn't fully developed until around age 26, 27. Right, which is what we are now, right? And that's just the average. Like that's not everybody. Right. Some people develop a little later, some a little sooner, and like there's really no concrete. But it's definitely not 14, 15 years old, right? Which is at the age that they were getting married. Like it's definitely not that age where they're able to, you know, make good decisions.
Right. No. I'd imagine that's tough. And it makes sense, I guess. But now that the norm over here is like, don't have too many kids.
Yeah.
And the time we're living in now, it's kind of hard to provide that kind of a wealth or any sort of a lucrative things, or as much as you can for the kids now. And this
a lot of things have the understanding, right? And like what this podcast is too is a result of like we're understanding things a lot sooner of how the world works, and you know what things are unhealthy that you want to remove from like your past, from your family's history. Because like there's certain things that are you carry forward that you're like, oh, this was a good thing. Then you bring it forward, and now we're at a point where it's like, oh, that thing actually wasn't good for us. So let's remove that and, you know, move forward. And so then, okay, so then that makes sense, because like I always told you, like I felt like you were like there's always like, you always know who the leaders are, if that makes sense. Like people who have leadership experience, you always know, like even if they aren't, like if they're still in their shell, because a lot of the leaders, and especially in the Marine Corps, when they come in so young, like a lot of times I was in my shell too, and you can always tell though who has leadership potential, right? And I think that now that makes sense.
You picked me.
Well,
remember?
yeah.
I'm like, me? Hold up. Are you sure? Think about this now.
It's just a feeling, because like, now that's funny hearing that story of like, well, you had to kind of be the parent. Yeah. Well, yeah, you had to grow up early. Like that's what that was. And that's the sense that I got from you, was like, you have the maturity because you had to, not because you wanted to, right? Because you chose to. It's because like, you know, you had it in front of you and you had to adapt. That was the same card that I was dealt, was like, you know, going through a hard time young. So let me ask you then, let's move a couple years forward. Like what made you, I'm curious, like I've never asked you this question. What interested you in becoming a Marine?
So I went to a Navy JROTC school, high school. You know, you got to wear the uniform every day. That was a requirement. And then, what was it? So my initial like high school, because, you know, I think back then we were like, all right, you got to go to the best high school so that you can get a better college, whatever it is. So I always wanted to go to Lane Tech. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I don't think so.
It's a Chicago public school. It's supposed to be one of the better high schools, one of the prestige high schools here in Illinois. I think I could be wrong, but I didn't get in. So I went to this Navy JROTC high school for 4 years, and you know, being surrounded by that kind of environment, like they were teaching you a little bit of like military. What do they call the 12 orders?
You're talking about the
I don't remember.
General orders.
12 general orders.
Oh man, it's been a while.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I had to dust off the book on that one.
The chain of command, you know, the phonetic alphabet, the military time. So being surrounded by that, I might have played in some part. Seeing some of my friends, you know, in our senior year, seeing some of my friends wanting to go to the Marine Corps, I'm like, nah. That's what I legit. I said, nah, it's not for me. Like this military thing is not for me. So, but you know, the recruiters come to the high school, try to get you in, sign up, that kind of thing. What actually led for me to sign up was I went to college. Can I say the college name?
If you want, yeah.
Okay, UIC.
Mm.
I went there for 3 days. Those 3 days, I mean, I didn't know anybody other than my high school friends that did go over there too. What was it? The financial aid office called me and said that my FAFSA and then like the tax off of my dad's taxes didn't like correlate or it didn't make sense as far as like he's filed head of household and on the FAFSA it says something different. So now, you know,
Oh,
you
so
gotta
like the
change it.
paperwork was messed up.
Basically, paperwork is messed up. So they're like either try to amend the tax that he filled out, or you're gonna have to pay. I think it was like 14 grand, or in total for the year, which is like 7,900 something.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money. I know my father definitely didn't have that kind of money. So he tried to change it, but our guy that we go to, the CPA, he was out of town and said it was already September or August. So it's kind of pointless is what he was saying. And one thing led to another. I went to the community college, but I knew I didn't want to depend on my parents either. I guess that's where that maturity comes into play, where like
you have to make an adult decision right there. Yeah.
So I decided to join the Marine Corps. Maybe one day I'll go back to college. And I went to a trade school. I don't know if that counts. I guess I did. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, but I decided to go the reserve route.
How did you find out the Marine Corps had reserves? Because I didn't know.
Well, being surrounded by already the recruiters in high school,
yeah.
they always giving you option: active duty, reserves, 90-day reservist, that kind of thing. So I kind of knew already ahead of time. So, and I had the recruiters our card with me. So I was like, hey, staff sergeant, can I changed my mind. Because he's always contacting me, hey, you gonna join? You gonna join? Nah, right? But then ultimately I was the one that called him and told him I want to join. And one thing led to another. I was fat then. I'm fat now.
And now you did your work. You're good. You can eat whatever you want.
So I had to, burn, lose the weight, whatever it is, so I can ship out of boot camp. Shipped out March 2017, and the rest is kind of history.
How would you rate your experience in boot camp?
I was terrified.
Yeah?
I was nervous.
What did you know about it going in? Did anybody tell you anything? Did you know anyone that went in before you?
Well, like my buddies that were going in the Marine Corps, so they got, as soon as we graduated high school, they went shipped out like a month later, another shipped out like 2 months later. So, I mean, I didn't get to see them yet when I was going through, but when I finally was able to reach out to them, they were telling me, hey, good luck, you're gonna kick ass,
Yeah.
You're gonna do good, keep pushing forward, don't worry about family, that kind of, the whole spiel you get. So.
Yeah, like just stay focused.
Yeah.
All that stuff, yeah. And so you say you were terrified. What was the...
Well, because I don't know what I was getting myself into. So, and then I've always been like this. I hate going to something unknown because then how can I prepare?
You didn't watch like any YouTube videos?
I didn't know at the time. I didn't bother to look at it either. I saw a couple clips, so I'm like, okay, maybe I can psych myself into it, and then from there just keep a stone face and push forward, even if it sucks.
I'll tell you, like, as many videos as I watched, because I thought I could prepare enough. Like, I could watch enough videos and figure out what I need to do. No, it didn't work. No. If anything, it was what it did do though. When I did watch the videos, I was like, okay, I know this part I'm familiar with. Like when the senior drill instructor, they did the speech. The Black Friday.
Oh yeah.
When the senior drill instructor does their whole speech, like I
saw that too.
Yep, I looked it up and I was like, oh, I know what this is, and I was like, oh, the things are about to get kind of crazy. All right, and then it starts, and at first it's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what exactly what I thought it was gonna be, and then it gets worse, like because they don't show like what happens right after that. They just show that, and it's like, oh okay, yeah. Then it just ends, right?
Should be fine, right? This should be.
And then it just stops, right? They don't just do this for the whole day, right? No, they sure do.
They definitely missed everything that was off camera.
Yeah.
Everything off the camera was a whole different beast.
You didn't tell me they were gonna throw my rack from the third story window.
You didn't tell me my rack was gonna be in the head, the sink or in the toilet, and we gotta pick it up ourselves and put it back the way it was. Oh man.
My one of my drill instructors, my J Hat, he told us before we left. He's like, don't be telling people stories about how he's like, don't be exaggerating that. Oh, the drill instructor backspin kicked this dude in the face. Like he's like, don't be doing none of that. But it wasn't ever that bad. But some things happened that were not too far off from from that. So I was like,
it's funny.
It's not really an exaggeration.
and probably the people who probably gonna be watching this video be like, what?
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm hearing this. To us, it's normal.
Yeah. No, well, that's why I want to kind of talk to the Marines, right? Because it's the military, and especially now, the military and like civilian side are very separated. Where it's like before, the military was like very part of the community, and like I guess I would say people were more connected with somebody that was in the military. Like, oh, my brother was, or because before
my grandfather.
Yeah. Because there were more active wars before, right? Like we live in the most peaceful time in human history. And so like, when's the last time we've had a major war, right? Not in our generation. Like when I came in, the unit, like, they had just deployed to,
Africa, right?
Africa. Yeah. They went to Africa right as I checked in. And so like I missed the last major deployment. That was the last major deployment where the whole unit went. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I came in and pretty much spent my whole career like not going to any major conflict. And that's because we lived in a generation where we just didn't go to war like that. We just missed it basically. Yeah. we just came in like, what happened?
We're a bunch of nobody. We're a bunch. You don't know what's this is not the real Marine Corps. This is
we're peacetime Marines. That's that's what it is.
It's all right.
I'm all right with that. If anything, I think that it's a good sign that we're moving in that direction where it's like we aren't having as many conflicts as before because diplomacy is better. We're understanding the human condition better, like what sets people off better, right? Like I think that we are at least getting a little better at that. I'm not saying we're great because it's still still pretty rough out there. Rough. Otherwise we wouldn't be having all these like political like what do you call them, uproars, I guess. Mm-hmm. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we're definitely not. If you disagree with somebody, you're definitely not going to war for it, like you're not against the whole country. Maybe anyway.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. We'll just stay there with that. But it's not happening globally anymore, right? Like you're having skirmishes, like and I think that that's not such a bad thing. But at the same time, because there's less conflicts, there's less connection to the military, right? Because it's like. Yeah. You don't you're not seeing it firsthand anymore. Like families aren't seeing their brothers and their fathers and whatever like go off to war. Like you're not seeing it anymore. So what happens is you just have a disconnection from the military now where it's like, why do we need you? Right? Like I kind of get that of that feeling of like where people just look at the military and go like, what do you do?
You don't want to know.
No, right? No, and so the problem then is like for me, I went in like I prepared myself mentally or tried to prepare myself mentally, and I was always ready. Like I wanted to go, be a part of something bigger, right? And when I came into the Marine Corps, I was like, when I heard that they were going on deployment, I was like, well, how often do they go on deployment? Because I want to go on the next one. And like probably the last one, I was like, "What? No, come on!" And I volunteered for a bunch of other ones that like smaller ones, like just little deployments to like different countries in the Middle East, but it weren't like conflicts. It was just like you're there to support and exercise out there, and so the whole movement changed, right? Like where it wasn't for conflict, but it was. As a like training exercise or operation support. And so like for me, it almost felt like, well, what am I here for? Like mm-hmm. it kind of hit me like, well, what are we going to do then?
And I feel the same way sometimes, even when like we're walking down the street in our uniform or whatever, or something like that. Right. Or mm-hmm. we have our day packs on and going through the airport. They're like, thank you for your service. In my head, I I haven't done anything.
Yeah.
And I still feel that way even after completing my obligated time and all that stuff. I still feel that way, that I haven't done anything. At least that's how I feel. You know, you can thank me for my service. I'll say, sure, kinda,
Sure,
sure.
yeah.
Like, you know, I just
whatever.
I don't, yeah, I don't feel that way. That's why
Yeah.
I didn't. You know, the active component obviously we've done more.
I wonder, and see, that's a good, that'd be a good question to ask. Is like how did they feel? Because you know, I'm sure that they had more opportunities to deploy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we had such little conflicts. I know some people that were active duty, and you know, if anything, they were mad at me because they were like, you chose the better route. It was like, I wasted my time, you know, 4 years of, you know, you couldn't really.
And I hear that a lot. They're like, oh, you did
that was the right move, right?
That was the right move. I'm like, I guess, yeah, sure.
And I guess in this scenario, in the time of peace, but you know, at the same time, like you always have to be ready. Like, you know, you got to have people who go active. Like, it's just, you never know with I remember like when the whole thing with what was it called, when that whole conflict with like North Korea was happening. Do you remember we were like gearing up for that?
Yeah.
And it was like
saying something.
Get ready, like tell your parents, like, or your families, like let them know what's going on, because as soon as they say go ahead, we're going.
Yeah.
And then like we'd be like this, like on our chairs, like, all right, are we ready? Are we gonna go? Yeah. And they're like, nothing happened.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. I take it back.
Yeah. I was just kidding.
Yeah. Psych.
Yeah. That's the wrong number. but yeah, there was a lot of that, and it just and it did feel like, well, you know, I feel like I didn't do a whole lot, but I'm starting to realize that like it did help me a lot. For you, like, do you feel like did it help you in any way?
Well, being in the military already, obviously, in general, like at the stores or like if you go to a movie theater, you get a discount, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's the physical portion, right? Yeah. I sometimes take advantage of it. I'm not ashamed.
They give me like 10% at 10%. McDonald's something.
Hey. Other times, I guess like you said, the leadership part, the aspect of it. So I carry that around with me. I like back at work. They might not listen to me now because I'm one of the newer guys in the company, but I try to bring up ideas. Sometimes they hear me, sometimes they don't. I mean, that's how it's going to be. It don't affect me at all. And then working in a trade, you're always going to hear some sort of complaints. They're always going to talk smack, talk trash. You know, almost like the Marine Corps. Yeah. So all that trash talking they're doing, like you can't do anything, you qualify for crap, either or. And I'm like, okay, it don't affect me. And for whatever reason, I enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie.
Wow, that's funny you say that, because like when I got out of the Marine Corps, like I took a role, a job position that was like a leadership role as well, and I thought that, you know, it would be a good transition, because that's what it was run like the military too, and so like I was thinking like this is gonna be a natural fit, and naturally I like found myself wanting to be a part of that, because that's like all you know, and you're somehow weirdly comfortable with that kind of environment, but it's not good for you. At least that's what I learned, is like I don't I would take it like, because I took it very seriously, and so it might affect you differently, but for me it was like when I took the management role at one of my other jobs, it was run just like the military. It was just like that, like where what's going on? Like what's going on with this guy? Like what? Like it wasn't ever like, you know, like what's going on? Is he having a bad day? It was always like, tell this guy, right? Like if he doesn't get it done, if he doesn't get it done, like this, you know, he's getting fired, like something like paperwork. Like it was always like he's getting written up. Like if this guy doesn't do this, like it felt like just like the military. So I was like, oh yeah, this feels like I don't want to say I'm comfortable with it, but it's familiar to me, right? So I'm like, oh, this is probably a good fit. But I ran myself into the dirt doing that, you know, because like I'm super like I want to do things right, and when I have people like on me like all the time, like bro, I will work myself to the ground and not even realize that I've done, just because I get so much anxiety, like where I have to do it right, I have to do it perfectly, right? And that's where I mess myself up. And but yeah, I also found myself like doing a job that was kind of like the military
Right.
or something I was familiar with. And it was like, why is that? It's like, I think that's something that rubs off on you.
For whatever reason, it just brings me joy.
Yeah.
Maybe I miss it. I don't know yet. I've only been out for a couple months only.
That was going to be my next question.
So I might miss it. I definitely miss the guys hanging out.
Yeah. I think that's what it is I miss the guys. I definitely don't miss I just didn't like the lack of the lack of planning, I guess, was like my biggest problem. Because I want to, like, I'm a perfectionist, so I have to know what's going on. Like, if you don't tell me what's happening, and then you tell me, oh, you have to do all these things.
And that's not even the worst part. Sometimes, like, it's planned out, and then the day of we get there, everything's changed all of a sudden. They change the script all of a sudden. And we're like, now we got to adapt and overcome, like they say.
Yeah.
Try to do what he wants done instead of the other guy. And then sometimes you're getting 20 voices from different directions telling you what to do.
Yeah.
You're like, you're at that, it comes to the point where you're like, stop. Let me do this first, then let me do that, and then, So
I think, like, one of the biggest problems I saw is the small, they wouldn't let the small unit leaders be the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they want you to take accountability for things that happen, but then also you have to do what everybody else is telling you to do the way that they tell you to do it, but then also be responsible for how it turns out. Like, how can that be possible? Like, how can you tell me to set this up a certain way, and then I set it up the way you told me to, and then it doesn't work, and then they're asking you why it doesn't work? Like that, there was a lot of that. And I just think that the biggest problem there is that the small unit leaders weren't allowed to be the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just trust in me, right? Like, just let me mess up so that I can learn, because I'm not going to learn how to do this better if you're always telling me how you want it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't ever get to practice my leadership, right? Like, hey, let's do it this way, or at least listen to my idea, right? Because, like, that was the biggest thing, is like, once I became, the biggest transition I made from was from junior Marine to like corporal. Like, that was the biggest transition I made, because I started to see like how things were, like why things happen the way they do
behind closed doors. Now you see why.
Well, I mean, you picked up corporal not long after I did. What was it, like a year, maybe? Like the following year you picked up?
I was already in a leadership role.
You're already
because of you.
Oh,
I was in a leadership role.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Got to believe in your people.
Yeah, right. And I'm like, are you sure?
No, you were definitely ready. You just didn't know it yet. Like,
I guess I already came out of my shell, like, as far as like not being timid, not being nervous at that point. And you remember Stat Sergeant Dudek?
Yeah.
And he always tell us to be the 3 C's: be clear, concise, and confident. I mean, hopefully I mastered that. I'm probably not there yet. There's still a lot more to do, but that helped a lot. Going into the military, try to be a leader as much as I can, even though without knowing, because I definitely did not know. I didn't even know I was ready. But you putting me in that position kind of helped a lot. Give me that little push that I didn't think I need, but I did need it too. Yeah. So I'll be forever grateful for that.
I thank you. That means a lot hearing that. Yeah. I really definitely hoped for the guys, that were with me and worked with me throughout my career and their career. Like, I definitely hope that at least I was able to give them some sort of confidence in themselves. Like, because like that's the biggest thing, is if you're confident in yourself, you can do whatever you want. Like, if you believe in whatever you're doing, like, you could honestly say you want to go to the moon. You probably get there in a couple of years. Like, yeah. So like that's the least that I hope that I could have done for some of you guys, where, and that was my goal too, right? Like, when I got platoon sergeant, like, that was my goal, is I don't want to change any of you guys. I just want to make sure that you guys have enough confidence to go and say, like, I'm going to do this and this is what I want to do. Like, that's it. Like, that's all I ever wanted in that. So thankful to hear for that.
Even now that I'm out, I remember when you got out, I was like, crap. Right?
I got some phone calls from you guys.
Exactly. And then I'd be in AT, either, I think we were like in Kansas or in Yuma.
Yeah.
Not Yuma, but something like that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Lopez, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Like, let's see. And then you try to dig up, off the book off your shelf, try to see if you remember.
Yep.
And you helped us out. And now that I'm out, Now I get a couple phone calls here and
Oh
there
yeah,
too.
man.
I'm like, I'm off, dude. Leave me alone. I'm kidding. No, I don't. I'm not like that. I try to help them out.
Yeah,
too, as much as I can.
Because like you know what it's like to be in their shoes. Like you got out, and I mean, even though Vega didn't, he didn't technically like for example, like what was it? Like he wasn't out, but like he was not in the unit anymore, right? For a while, right?
Yeah.
Way before, not way before, but like a year before I did. I was still calling him all the time, like like all the time. You remember?
Yeah, I remember.
Like, bro, like, how do you set this up? And this guy would be at work, and he'd run to his truck and be like, "Let me go grab my book." I'm like, "You carry it with you? Like, you go to work with it? Like, you expect it?"
Better man than me.
Yeah,
like, I know.
I didn't bring any of the. I all my notes, like I just completely like got rid of because I didn't have a use for them anymore other than to help you guys. But if I needed them, I had everything on the drive, right? Like the was it the Com Bible?
Oh yeah.
I still have it today. Like I still have all the files of like how to program everything.
Oh, wow.
So like I could still, if I wanted to, just on my phone be like, here, let me send you this. This is how you set this up. And because I probably couldn't walk you through a full setup anymore. I don't know if my memory's still there for setup for radios, but I mean it happens. Like guys call you, and that's part of the burden of being a leader, even when you get out.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I think I remember.
Yeah. And so you get out. Now that you're out, you've been out for like what, a year now?
I'm not, dude. I just got out in February.
Oh, geez.
I'm telling you, just a couple months.
Yeah. Oh.
So like I'm still, I guess you can say, transitioning into that civilian life, even though I've always been there. For 6 years. But
how has it been so far?
Oh, you already know behind the scenes. What was it? Got engaged, of course, and now we're expecting my first kid on the way, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
Big stuff.
Wow, it's a lot. It's a lot of moving.
Yeah.
So I think it was just the right, and then the apprenticeship that just started too.
Yeah.
So a lot of pieces started just falling into place where I think I'm happy to close this chapter with the Marine Corps, and now we'll continue on with what's coming up next.
Yeah.
So I mean, I have an open mind for everything. So like maybe later down the road, if I decide to come back in, I'll go back in. I don't know yet.
Yeah. I don't see, like, I realized that I didn't miss the Marine Corps. Like, I don't miss like the organization as much as I miss my friends. Right. Like,
I still do. Yeah.
Like I think that was probably the hardest part. And I went through really rough patches, like I told you, that we talked about. Like I went through a pretty rough spot for that time that I was out. I just started coming back up. And the reason why is because I started reaching back out to you guys. Like I remember that was
you called me that one random night. I think I was driving downtown. I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
You just called me and then you were like, hey, I miss it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I try to give you the best advice I can, but I was still in.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't know how it feels like being on the other side of that fence. Now that I am there, I'm like, okay, I think I can see what Lopez was talking about that time. Like, all of a sudden, like, you know, the
it's
weekends,
like gone,
that one weekend that you had throughout and that month, that's all gone.
Because like, okay, the thing that was for me that I looked forward to was no matter how bad life got in the civilian side, I knew that every month I was gonna go see my friends. Like. It's kind of like you have a planned hangout, right? Like, yeah, it was also work, right? Like, and a lot of work.
We do work.
Yeah. No, we just sat around. Right? What are you talking about? We ate Popeyes once. I was just playing. No, it was a lot. But even though it was going to be more work than, like, for example, like going out in the rain, setting up radios, and like all these operations that, like, you know, were a lot of work, it wasn't so bad because it was like. We got to, you know, talk while, like, mess around. Like, we got to, like, you know, joke around while we were having a difficult time or whatever, rather than be sad and like, you know, complain. We found a way to make things funny. Yeah. We found a way to, like, make it 100%, make it doable. Right. And that's what I missed. Cause like I didn't find that. I haven't found that outside of the Marine Corps where, like, you and I, like, I could tell you, like, for example, we could shoot straight. I could be like, hey, like, that thing isn't set up right. And then you'd be like, you're stupid. Look, watch.
Yeah, you're
like,
stupid idiot.
Look,
Get out of
like,
here.
let me show you. Let me show you. Right. And then you prove me wrong. And then I go, like, right. And then, but you know, like it's not personal. Like we joke around, we go back and forth, and we're really a family because like we bicker like siblings.
Yeah, we do.
Right. And then, but we're fine in the end. Like in the end, we don't hold anything against each other. Even the ones that like, are like have shorter tempers or whatever, like you get used to who they are and you accept them. That's who that person is. Where out here, like, I'm not saying it's not there. It's just not in abundance, if that makes sense. Like, it's not everybody. We're in the Marine Corps. It's like, we all grew up together. Like, and we became like, you know, we were kids still, like when we enlisted, and you got a fly moving around.
Okay.
Huh? You got those instincts still, huh? But you know what I mean? Like, it was just, we were really a family.
Yeah.
So like when I got out, I realized like, oh, I'm essentially like missing my family.
Right.
Right. And that was the hard part for me. So to hear that, you know, you kind of starting to
feel that a little bit.
Feel that a little bit. Yeah.
And then when, you know, we did the gender reveal and got you guys to come over, yeah, sure, I was running around all the damn time. The host shouldn't be running around.
Man.
But I mean, I still am because I want to satisfy people. I want to make sure they're all good.
After all this time, you still have those traits, like the being taking care of people. Like that's the burden of a good leader, right? Is that they go around, they want to take care of people. So like, I poke fun at you about it all the time, but that's why I picked you as a leader, is because like you have that in you. I want to take care of people. Like there's something special about people like that we want them in higher positions to take care of others, because that's what they want. Like you genuinely get satisfaction out of doing that,
right?
Versus people who want it for the status, right? People who want it so that they can tell others what to do and they can just sit back, because those exist, right? Like we've seen them plenty of times. Like people who just want to sit back and
they get all the credit.
They get the credit and run the show. Like that's not the kind of leader that is helpful to a society or helpful to a small unit leadership. Like that's why good Marines get out, right? Because like you hear it all the time. Like, why do good Marines get out? It's because like the good leaders, the ones that actually care about taking care of others, those ones get run down. Like they get used because they know that they can do all the work and I'll get all the credit.
Yeah, they'll get it done.
They'll get it done because they care.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, I'm not going to get super into detail, but you already know how it happened in our unit, right? Like, I mean, ultimately I got out for my own reasons, and that had a lot to do with it. Is like, I got run to the ground. Like I did, I tried to do as much as I could. And
I remember.
And like, and then like the stuff that I put in, all the work that I had put in was just kind of like taken from me. And I was like, okay, well then I'm leaving. You know, like I don't feel like the stuff that I'm doing is appreciated. Like that's why good leaders get out. And it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Run. Yeah. And you know, like the people who stick around, unfortunately, sometimes are people who don't have anything else outside of that. And some people who are lifers are great at it. And those who stick around make huge changes for the positive. I've seen it plenty of times where I'm like, wow, like that guy is the reason I stick around. Like that guy. I've had plenty of those. The active duty Marines. I could name a handful of them off the top of my head that I could tell you, like, those guys are the reason why like I keep doing things the way that I know it's supposed to be done, is because of guys like them that stick around and they know what you're going through. And, you know, there are plenty of those, but there are also those that stick around long and become lifers because they like the authority, right? Like they like that they have in this world, they have a say in, and we're outside, like everybody's an equal.
Yeah.
Right. So that was probably the hard chapter for me, is like the transition out and then not seeing you guys anymore.
Right.
And on top of that, like realizing that then I also don't have that community outside of the Marine Corps. Like there was no community to replace it. Like I had a job that replaced it, but that's not what I missed. Yeah. Right. Like that I missed the group, the guys. Right. So that was the challenge that I had, but for you you've been out since February, like, and then on top of that, now you got like your life is just picking up,
it's speeding,
right? Like
I went from 30 to 95
real quick. So, do you feel prepared to be a dad?
Oh my God, I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't
Okay,
know. I really don't know. Time will tell. I don't think anything. No book, no manual, no YouTube videos or anything like that can always prepare you for something so, in my mind, precious already. You know, that kid's coming. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm already excited for this kid.
yeah.
So it's a little mini me is what my fiance is saying.
Yeah.
So get ready. And I'm excited. I'm nervous. But I'll do the best I can to support.
You'll do fine.
That young kid as much as I can.
Yeah, I have faith in that. See, you've been preparing for this your whole life. Obviously, there are things you're not gonna be able to know, right? Like you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, but
Right. There's a manual to this.
yeah, right. There's no what do you call them? TR manuals, right?
No, there's no TR for this. No.
There's no TR manuals for this. Like, how does this operate, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, but I think that you'll figure it out. Just like every other position that you had, right? Like, you might trip over and mess up a couple times, but it's part of.
Right now, I think 5 weeks and not 5 weeks. Sorry, 5 months and 3 weeks now. So it's coming quick too. It felt just like yesterday. We told my parents and we told her parents that hey, the little one's coming on board.
Yeah.
Like what? And
well, I mean,
man,
it's time flies now.
Yeah.
And that's definitely like since I've checked back in with you guys, like all of my friends are having kids now and getting married, and I'm like, wow, man, like life picked up quick.
Yeah.
100%. And especially it seems like our 20s have been like the most transformative years so far, because like my teens, like it wasn't super uneventful, like to be honest. Like all of high school, like that to me was like the least interesting part of my life was high school. Like nothing was happening. I was going to school like disliking everything. Like that's basically what I was doing. Like I was like, I don't want to be here. Right? Like, I hate this place. Like and that was
why did they send me here?
Yeah, why do I have to learn? Like what's the point? That was pretty much most of my teens, and then I went into the Marine Corps, and like life just exploded.
To be honest,
and it was like, oh, this is what adulthood is. Yeah. And
can I go back?
but it's funny you say that, because like that's what everybody's doing right now, and not just like friends in the Marine Corps. Like my friends like civilian side we're all like we like exploded out in the universe, and then just started to come back because we're like, oh, it's kind of crazy out there, bro. Like, and we just started coming back, to tell each other what we found. Like, oh, this is what I experienced. Like, I went through this, I went through that. I was like, yeah, oh God, like that's crazy. Yeah. In that short time, people are having families now, and like they've gone through a lot of personal change and growth and the ups and downs, and it's been pretty crazy.
And it's great though, because maybe that person went through something that you're going through at that moment. You're gonna go to that person and ask for that you're gonna seek for that some sort of advice. Like,
well, this is and that's what this is all about, right? Like what we're doing right now is like what was it like, and what did you learn? Right. Because if anything, I think the best thing we could do now is take all of the collective experiences and get them together like a consensus, just like how we used to have in the Marine Corps when we would we would have like every section would give their piece, like when we would when we would give a sit rep, right? Like on how everything's going. Yeah. And every section would get together, and that particular leader for like the radio or the data or all that, like they would all give their piece on, hey, this is what's happening, this is happening. And then we would all kind of give ideas of like, oh, well, how long is this going to take? Oh, well, how about this? How about this guy goes to that guy, and you guys get together and like, figure out how you're going to make that work and all that. And that's kind of what's happening. What I want to happen here is like, we all get back together. We all went out and did our own thing, did our own op, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then failed utterly, and now came back and are like, oh, that all sucked. Like, like what can we do better? No, so there's successes, right? And everyone talks about their successes and what they tripped over, and like, oh, I tripped over that too. Mm-hmm. What can we do to not trip over that thing anymore? Like, I feel like that's ultimately what we're all doing right now, is getting back together and doing that.
And I'm glad we're still in talks, you know?
Still in touch, man. We can't. I think the worst thing that we could do, especially veterans, is once we leave that community, to just stop communicating with those people, because, like, ultimately nobody understands us like us. Like, unfortunately, like, that's just, it's both a curse and a blessing, right? Like, there are certain, like, for example, if I could sit here and talk about, like, leadership all day long, and some people might grasp the concept of what I'm talking about, but they don't know the experiences. Like, they can't relate. I remember a couple of times I brought my friends, and then I would have, like, with the Marines, and I would, like, they would hear how I talked and everything, particularly in COVID. Like, when we were doing everything through chat, like, I would talk to my friends, and they would sit there and they would hear, like, the stuff we were saying to each other, and they'd be like, they just, like, I don't get it. Like, you know, like, I just don't, we're speaking a different language, right? And nobody else speaks that language but us. So it's both a curse and a blessing. And so, you know, I think like the leadership role extends beyond our years in the military. Does that make sense? Like, I find myself more like I feel like I'm still in it to some extent, in that role of, like, checking in with you guys, like, the like, making sure that everybody is doing okay, and you need anything, like, anything I can help with, like, I still feel like to some extent I'm still in it, you know, like, I don't think that role ever really ends, if that makes sense.
I think I agree.
And I think the worst thing you could do is leave it behind, and because you will feel like a piece is missing. At least I did. I felt like I had people to look after, and
it's weird because, like, I was just cleaning out my closet the other day, and, you know, I have my military stuff. Now I'm packing it away in a box, putting it in storage, and then I'm like, wow, this is really it. I think that's when it actually hit me the most. Not even after the fact that I checked out, but the fact that I was storing all my, you know, the dress blues, the pickle suit. So just the fact that I put all those away, and I'm like, that might have been it. I mean, I don't know yet. We'll find out down the road.
You never know.
But for now, it's like, it looks like I'm content. I'm content with what I've done. Maybe it wasn't much, but I mean, I hope I've influenced also, like how you say, I say you influenced me. Hopefully I influenced the guys that are now
100%. Especially the guys that people who call you after you leave are people who looked up to you. That's just how I saw it. And I was like, and I didn't realize that right away. Until I sat back and I kind of watched everybody, and when we got back together, how they all still, like, you guys all still talk to me like I know some sort of answers you don't. Like, you know, like, you're in a chapter now where I can't like, you know, being a father, like, that's something you're gonna have to help me with one day, right? Like the role. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just, life is like that, where and it's a good thing. It's good. It's humbling to be able to move in between, like, being a mentor and a mentee. I think the best mentor continues to be a student. Like, you never stop learning. Right? And that's just how I see it. Is like, now we're all stuck together. We're all family now. So saddle up, because we're
you're not leaving me behind. I'm not leaving you behind. You're coming with me.
I really appreciate it. And I think with that, we're running up on our hour. So
that quick?
That's it, man.
Bruh.
It went quick, right?
Wow.
And that's why I like to watch the timer on there, because it tells me how long we've been going for.
Okay.
But just so that we don't run out of time, because these cameras tend to zone out. But with that, thanks again, man, for coming out and making the drive. And
no, I don't mind. Like I said, you were making this has been a thought for you even long before you even got out. I know that. So for me to be able to support in any way I can, and being here right now, hopefully I said something knowledgeable that any of these people can.
There's
pick,
always something to learn from a great leader.
Yeah. So. Thanks. Yeah. And if it didn't, oh well. I'm sorry. Viewership has sunk.
No, come on, man. You gotta be more positive than that. But no, there's always like I said, you can always learn something from a great leader. Right. So thanks again.
Thank you. So is that it?
That's it.
All right.